Hello and welcome to your Easy Flow class. So this class is designed to just get you up and moving. It's not going to be anything too challenging, but it is going to help you take your body through full range of motion so that we can bring some movement back into the body. This practice is really great if you've been sitting all day and you just need a little break. Or if you're feeling a little stiff and you really need to bring some movement back into the tissues of the body. So we'll get started in a seated pranayama. If you want, you can be seated up on a block like I am doing, or you can sit with your knees together, whatever feels comfortable in your body, whatever works for you today. Find a position that is comfortable. Now we will be using blocks for a couple of the postures today. If you feel like you need them, you do not necessarily have to use your blocks, but they're a good prop to have just to kind of assist you in some of the postures that we'll be moving through today. So once you have found yourself in your comfortable seat, let's go ahead and close the eyes. And if you are using the playlist today, you can go ahead and start it in 3, 2, 1. So again, settle yourself in on your mat. Beginning to draw your senses inward. Bringing all your awareness back to yourself. And let's take a moment here before we begin our practice, just to honor the lineage of this practice, its roots back in India, honoring the land that you live on in the traditional territories, honoring your own roots, your ancestry, where you come from, and honoring yourself for taking an hour out of your day to practice some movement, some self-care, reconnecting back with yourself. So starting to notice your breath here. Notice it moving in through the nose, filling up the lungs, and back out through the nose. And bringing almost a sweet quality to the breath, letting it come soft and smooth. Not necessarily focusing on extending the breath here. Today we just want to focus on creating a gentle, smooth breath. And it may grow a little quicker through some of the postures. And I'll be reminding you throughout the practice to reconnect with the breath and consciously bringing it back to that smooth, sweet quality. And so we'll take a couple more of these breaths here, just really noticing it as it travels into your body, changing the shape of your body. Let's take one more deep breath here. This time in through the nose and exhaling it out through the mouth. And if your eyes are closed, you can gently blink them open. And we'll slowly make our way into a tabletop position on your mat. So if you had any blocks, just pressing them out of the way. So coming into your tabletop position, your hands are going to come directly under your shoulders. Your knees will be directly under your hips. I'm giving you the option to either tuck or untuck the feet today, whatever feels good in the body. And finding a neutral spine here. So when I say neutral spine, we've got those nice natural curves of the spine happening. We're not pressing it up too much and we're not dipping down here. Just finding a neutral alignment. We'll be finding this neutral alignment throughout the practice today. So it's really good to become familiar with it for now, so that when we do move into different postures, you can find the alignment again. So we'll begin with a little bit of spinal awakening, moving through the joints of the shoulders and the hips, coming through some cat-cow movements. So with an inhale, dropping the belly down, the hips begin to rotate up towards the ceiling, pulling the chest through the arms, head begins to reach up. On an exhale, pressing into the palms, the tailbone tucks under as you round the spine. Inhaling, dropping the belly down, hips rotate up, pulling that chest through the forearms. Exhale, pressing into the palms, really rounding in the back, tuck the tailbone in. Inhale, rolling yourself into your cow, maybe shifting the gaze up a little bit. Exhale, pressing into your cat, really accentuating that rounding of the spine here. Inhale. Exhale. Moving through a couple of rounds with your own breath now. Just really noticing the movement of the spine and the rotation in the hips and the shoulders. Let's do one more round. And then we will meet back in that tabletop neutral spine position. And then let's walk our hands about a foot forward. So coming a little bit closer to the front of the mat. We're going to come into a melted heart or puppy pose. So keeping that nice neutral spine, the hips are going to stay stacked over the knees. We're going to gently allow the chest to come down towards the mat. Maybe your hips press back a little bit. Maybe you wiggle the hands a little bit forward. We're creating a nice flexion in the shoulders here. Really opening through the shoulder joint, opening through the front side of the body. So you can stay here with your head up off of the floor, or if you want to come a little deeper, maybe dropping the forehead down to the floor. Again, making sure that whatever position you're coming in, you've got that nice neutral spine, maybe coming into a very slight extension in the back here, opening through the heart. We'll take a couple more breaths. And then on an inhale, if your head is down, let's pick the head up first. Gently begin to walk the hands in, coming back into your tabletop neutral spine position. So if your toes are not already tucked, go ahead and tuck them. We're going to come into our first downward dog, pressing into the palms, pressing into the feet, picking the hips up, maybe keeping the knees really bent here, drawing the chest towards the thighs, finding that spinal alignment first, and then beginning to extend the legs. When you get to your full downward dog position, maybe you want to walk the feet out here, waking up the hamstrings, noticing how they feel today, noticing how the hips feel, how the shoulders feel. And then coming into a still downward dog. So maybe you keep the heels off the floor, knees nice and bent. Maybe you're working towards extending the heels to the floor. We'll take one more inhale and exhale. On an inhale, walking very slowly towards the front of the mat. Taking little steps. Maybe coming up onto your fingertips, bending the knees when you get to the front of the mat. And once you reach the front of the mat, let's bring the feet hip distance apart, bend deeply into the knees so that you can drape the torso over the thighs. And let's grab opposite elbows here. Let the head hang, creating this really nice extension along the spine, lengthening all along the spinal column. One more inhale. Exhale. On an inhale, let's root through the feet, drawing our body upright, coming all the way to stand. Let's keep the arms down just to start. And finding a nice neutral posture in our standing pose. So starting in our Tadasana, we'll move through a couple rounds of Surya Namaskar A, moving into a standing sequence, and ending with some gentle stretches on the mat. So starting at the front of the mat, feet can either be hip distance or you can bring them closer, whatever works for your body today. Finding that nice tall spine. Let's inhale, arms rise, maybe look up towards the ceiling. Exhale, hinging at the hips, folding forward, maybe bending into the knees. Hands come down to the mat. Inhale, coming into half lift. Hands come to the shins, straighten the spine, straighten the legs. Exhale, plant the hands down. We'll take a step back into our plank. Flowing through Ashtanga Pranam, let's drop the knees down. Exhale as you lower the chest down to the floor and untucking the toes. Keep the hands next to the low ribs. As you inhale, gently lift the head up, pulling the shoulder blades together on the back. Exhale, release. We'll do that a couple more times. So inhale, lifting the head, pulling the shoulder blades together, opening through the chest. Exhale, release. One more time like that. Inhale, lift, using the muscles of the upper back to pull you into extension. And exhale, release. Tuck your toes. Press yourself up into a tabletop. And then come back into your downward dog. Again, maybe bending the knees a little bit here, working towards reaching the heels towards the mat, or allowing the heels to come fully down onto the mat. Let's take an inhale, look towards your hands. Exhale, walk, or this time take a big step forward to the front of your mat. Inhale, coming into that half lift, hands to the shins, straight spine, straight legs. Exhale, fold, maybe bending the knees. Inhale, rooting through the feet. Let's bring ourselves all the way up. This time, hands reach up. And exhale, hands come down to the heart center and back to our Tadasana. We'll do one more round like that, a little bit quicker. Inhale, arms rise. Exhale, hinging at the hips, fold forward, maybe bending the knees. Inhale, coming to half lift, hands to shins, or keep them on the mat. Exhale, plant the palms, big step back into your plank. If Chaturanga is in your practice, option to do that here. Exhale, lowering down. Inhale, coming into upward facing dog or that baby cobra. Exhale, release, tuck your toes, coming back into downward facing dog. A few breaths here in your downward facing dog. On an inhale, look towards the hands. Exhale, walk a big step to the front of the mat. Inhale, coming into half lift, maybe hands on the floor, maybe bring them to your shins. Exhale, folding deeply. Inhale, root through the feet as you rise all the way up. Hands reach up. And exhale, hands to heart center, back to Tadasana. Let's take a moment here to notice the body, the changes after doing those two sun salutations. Surya Namaskara A. And we'll continue on. Inhale, arms rise. Exhale, hinge at the hips, fold forward, hands come down to the mat. Inhale, coming into your half lift. Exhale, this time we'll plant the palms, take a big step back with the right foot, coming into a low lunge on this side. We're going to come into a warrior two. So your back heel is going to drop to the floor and you're going to angle the foot so it's parallel with the back edge of the mat. We can change this when we come into our warrior two, but just set yourself up with this foundation first. Solid in your feet here as you inhale. Windmill the arms up, coming into your warrior two. So to find a nice foundation in your warrior two, you want to have your shoulders squaring over your hips. Your front knee is pretty in line with that front foot. Your back foot, again, it can be parallel with the back edge of the mat, or you may want to angle it in or out a little bit to see what kind of works for your body today. The depth of your bend in your front knee is going to depend on your mobility and how you're feeling today. And the arms can come to a T at shoulder height. You can look over the left fingertips if it's okay for your neck. And we'll hold here for a few breaths. Just exploring this pose, how it feels today. What muscles you notice are working to keep you solid here. We'll take one more inhale. On an exhale, dropping your left elbow to the top of your left knee. Your right hand is going to swing down, forward, and up overhead. Maybe you have your hand angling towards the top corner of the room, or maybe it's pointing directly up towards the ceiling. This is going to depend on how it feels in your shoulder. So if this feels okay, you can extend your fingers towards the corner. If this feels better, point the fingers up towards the ceiling. Extended side angle pose. So this is option number one. If you want to come a little deeper in your extended side angle pose, you can begin to reach your left hand down to the floor, or if you have a block, you can place a block on the floor and come into a little deeper version. And that you have the option to look down at the floor or to test your balance and look up towards the ceiling. And we'll stay here for 3 more breaths. And then on an inhale, we're going to root through the feet, draw ourselves back up to warrior 2 for 1 breath. Exhale. 1 more inhale. And then exhale, windmill those hands down to the floor. Take a big step back into your plank. Chaturanga or Ashtanga Pranam. Exhaling, lower down. Inhale, lifting to upward facing dog or baby cobra. Exhale, release. Tuck the toes, downward facing dog. Finding that downward facing dog again. And then on an inhale, looking towards the hands. Exhale, walk or big step to the front of the mat. Inhale, coming into that half lift. Maybe hands on the floor, maybe hands to shins. And then exhale, let's plant the palms. This time take a big step back with the left foot. And again, we'll set up for that warrior 2. So bring the foot so that it's parallel with the back edge of the mat first. Nice solid foundation in the feet here. On an inhale, rise up into warrior 2. And take a moment now to find that nice alignment in your warrior 2. So again, recap. Your shoulders will be aligned over your hips, facing the front or the side edge of your mat. The front knee is tracking as much over the middle of the foot as possible. And the back foot, you can have it either parallel with the back edge of the mat, or you can practice winging it in or out, just to see what works best for your foot. Arms can come to a T. And again, the depth of the bend in the front knee, the right knee here, is going to entirely depend on your mobility and how your body is designed. So it's going to look different in everybody. Finding a really nice expansion through the front of the body here, lifting the chest, lifting the sternum up towards the ceiling, but not to a point where you're arching the back. So we want a nice, tall, proud posture here. Let's hold for 2 more breaths. One more inhale. On an exhale, this time dropping the right elbow to the top of the right knee. And your back arm is going to swing down, forward, and extending up overhead. Again, maybe angling the hand here, or maybe pointing it up towards the ceiling. Maybe looking down at the floor, or looking up to challenge your balance. And finally, maybe staying up on your knee or reaching the hand down to the floor, coming into a deeper version of your side angle pose. Choosing an option that works for your body today. Let's take 2 more breaths here in extended side angle pose. And in an inhale, rooting through the feet, let's come back to warrior 2 for a breath. 1 more inhale. And exhale, windmill the hands down to the mat. Take a nice big step back into your plank. Ashtanga Pranam or Chaturanga, lower. Inhale, upward facing dog or baby cobra. Exhale, tuck the toes, downward facing dog. Taking a moment here just to notice, has your downward facing dog changed from the beginning of the practice? Maybe you feel more open in the hips, the low back. Maybe you can get those heels a little closer to the floor. Maybe you can straighten the legs a little bit more. One more inhale. And exhale. On an inhale, look towards the hands. Exhale, walk a big step to the front of the mat. Inhale, coming into that half lift. Exhale, full forward fold. Inhale, root through the feet. Let's rise all the way up, hands reach up. And exhale, hands to heart center. Back to Tadasana. So for this next sequence, you may want to use your blocks. So if you have your block, let's just have it handy. We're going to be doing triangle pose, and we're going to be starting facing that direction. So you can place your block near the back edge of your mat so that it's ready for you. So we're just going to take a big step back with the left foot and turn to face the side edge of your mat. So coming into a wide-legged stance here. Sorry. And then you're going to take your left foot and you're going to angle it towards the back edge of your mat. So pointing the foot towards the back edge. Your right foot is going to stay parallel with the back edge of the mat, or if that doesn't quite feel right for the tendons in your ankle, maybe practice angling it in or out a little bit, seeing what works best for you. Okay, so inhale. Let's bring the arms to that nice T shape. As you exhale, your right hip is going to press towards the front edge of your mat as you lean yourself over that that left leg. Keep your left arm raised a little bit here to create space along the left side of the body. And then begin to drop that left hand down towards the floor. So here's where you're going to want the block if you need it. Block can come right next to your left ankle and you can rest your hand on it. Your right hand can point up towards the ceiling, or you can keep it resting on your hip if your shoulder is getting a little tired. One nice thing about having your right hand on your hip is you can work to open that right hip up towards the side edge of the mat, which is what we're working towards here. Trying not to let the body and the hips collapse down towards the mat. Really creating a nice opening here. Or you can practice lowering the block a level. Or you can try your hand at a little bit of core engagement by holding yourself up in your triangle pose. So not necessarily resting your hand on your shin, putting too much pressure on that knee joint, but just simply coming into this solid triangle pose here. And if it's in your practice, you can reach for your front toe and come into your full triangle pose. We'll take one more inhale here. And exhale. Root through your feet, coming all the way up, maybe bending into that front knee to help you get up there. Let's angle the left toes to the front of the mat. We'll come into a wide-legged forward fold here before moving into the other side. So maybe you want your block again, somewhere that you can rest your hands on. When I set up for a wide-legged forward fold, I try to judge the distance between my feet by bringing my hands out and having my ankles in line with my wrists. So they appear to be pretty close. So you may actually come wider than you think you need to be. Okay. So your feet are going to stay parallel with the front edges of the mat. You can bring your hands to your hips. Inhale, let's find that nice tall neutral spine first. And then exhale, hinging at the hips, rotating the pelvis forward so that you can come forward, maybe landing your hands on that block. Staying here in this nice parallel position, or if you feel like you can come a little further, maybe lowering the block a level, even more, maybe coming all the way down to the floor. If you have lots of mobility in the hips, maybe allowing the crown of the head to come towards the mat. Bringing the hands back in between the feet, drawing yourself down. So again, coming to a level that works for you, for your body today. Wherever you are, let's take 3 more nice deep breaths here. When your third exhale is complete, if you're all the way folded, bring yourself up so that you're parallel with the floor. You're going to use our core to bring us up. So root through your feet, really solid here so that you can bring your hands to your hips. And then nice big inhale, draw yourself back up to standing. Whew. It's a tough one. Great, so we'll move into the triangle pose on the other side now. So you can just simply shift your right toes to point towards the front edge of the mat. And again, if you needed that block at the beginning in your triangle pose on one side, you may need it on this side as well. And again, playing around with the angle of the back foot, maybe you want to keep it parallel with the back edge of the mat, or angling it just to see what works for your foot today. Okay, arms can come to a T. Inhale, tall spine. Exhale, let's kick that left hip out to the side as we angle the body over the right leg. Keeping that right arm reaching up, creating space along the right side of the body. And then letting the right hand come down. Again, maybe you rested on a block. Maybe the left hand comes up to the ceiling, or maybe you keep it on your hip to work on opening through that left hip, left shoulder. Keeping a very slight bend in the knee. So we're not bending the knee, but we're not locking that joint, right? Maybe coming down a level of the block. If it's in your practice, maybe reaching for the right toes, coming into your full Trikonasana triangle pose. Let's take one more nice deep breath here in our triangle. And then exhale. Very slight bend in the knee. As you inhale, lift yourself back up. And then exhale, make your way back to the top of the mat. Moving any blocks out of the way. And we'll make our way down to the floor now. So inhale, arms rise. Exhale, hinge at the hips as you fold forward. Inhale, coming into half lift. Now I'm going to give you an option. You can either come straight into a downward dog, or you can flow through a vinyasa. So similar to sun salutation. If you're doing a vinyasa, follow me. Exhale, step back into your plank, Ashtanga Pranam or Chaturanga lower. Inhale, upward facing dog or baby cobra. Exhale, release. Now we meet everybody downward facing dog. Okay, so we're going to set ourselves up for a pigeon pose. If you like to have a block for your pigeon pose, make sure it is close by. We're going to start with the left leg. Usually I start on the right, but today we're going to do left first. So inhale, let's lift that left leg up behind us, keeping the hips nice and square. So your foot's probably not going to come very high. As you exhale, bend the knee, draw it in towards your chest, and land your knee to the inside of the left wrist. Your left foot is going to angle towards the right edge of the mat. So resting on your left shin, and you can just wiggle that right foot back so you can lower the hips down. Maybe you need the block underneath your hips here. And once you find your pigeon pose, you can untuck the back toes. And let's stay upright here for just a brief minute. Letting the hip flexor open here. And then when you are ready, slowly walking the hands forward, coming into reclined pigeon. Ekapada Kapotanasana, single-legged pigeon pose. This would be also a Supta Ekapada Kapotanasana, reclined, sleeping. And if you don't need that block under your hip, you can remove it. Again, moving into a position that works for your body today. So once you find yourself in your pigeon, we'll just take some nice deep breaths here. Coming back to that sweet, smooth breath. And just noticing any shifts that happen in your body as we hold this position a little longer than some of the other poses we did today. Maybe noticing if you're gripping anywhere, your muscles feel like they're clenching. And actively trying to allow those muscles to soften, release. Maybe that means you need to prop yourself up a little bit to make your muscles feel a little bit more safe so that they can let go. So the use of a block is not necessarily a sign of weakness or not good enough or not flexible enough. It actually provides a little bit of support so that you can move a little deeper into a pose. hold a pose for a little bit longer. Let's take 3 more nice deep breaths here in our pigeon pose. And then if you're all the way down, lifting the head first, gently walking the hands in, tucking the back toes under, maybe removing any blocks that you may have been using, pressing into the palms and the foot so that you can lift yourself off the floor and shoot that left leg back. Maybe coming into a downward dog. And I like to just extend that leg behind me just to kind of let all of the fluids and the neutralization happen in that leg. Maybe rolling through the ankle and placing it back down. We'll do the exact same thing on the right side. So on an inhale, extend that right leg behind you. Bend through the knee. As you exhale, draw that knee forward and land the knee to the inside of the right wrist. The right foot scoots over to the left edge of the mat, coming into a diagonal kind of shape with your right shin. And then you can wiggle your left foot back so you can draw the hips down to the floor. Again, if you need the block under your hip here for some support, definitely do that. And we'll stay in this upright position for just a couple of breaths. You can untuck the back toes. Start to create a little bit of space through the front side of the body here. The hip flexor, the psoas muscle. Creating some openness here before we move into the Supta version. Let's take one more inhale. And then on an exhale, allow the body to lean forward, maybe coming to forearms. If you've got a second block, maybe just resting the forearms on the block. Or if you have the mobility, removing the blocks, if you have them, coming all the way down onto your hips and onto your forearms. Or even bringing your forehead all the way down to the floor. Finding a position that feels really nice, really soothing. Again, we'll hold this position for a little longer. So finding that sweet breath again. Smooth, steady. And as we hold these longer poses, you notice that your thoughts start to take you away from your practice. So whenever that happens, I'm trying not to judge yourself and just letting your thoughts gently come back to your breath, to your body, to whatever you're feeling in the posture. Okay, let's take 3 more deep breaths here in our pigeon pose, Ekapada Kapottanasana. Okay, and when your third exhale is complete, if your head is down, gently lifting the head first, walking the hands in, tucking the back toes, removing any blocks that might have been used for the posture. Pressing into the palms and into the foot to lift yourself up, coming back into your downward dog, and maybe just extending that right leg behind you, bringing some neutralization back into the leg, maybe rolling through the ankle. Okay, and we're gonna make our way onto our back. So you can come down to your knees and just gently rolling yourself over onto your back body. We'll come into a couple more poses before coming down to our Shavasana. So first things first, once we get to our back, let's draw our knees into the chest. Maybe a sigh escapes. Just noticing the weight as it's pressing onto your low back, your mid back. And if you feel the need to rock or roll a little bit here to massage the muscles of the back body, just feel free to do so. And then let's grab onto both knees. And we're going to externally rotate the legs out to the side. So opening up through the legs, drawing the knees over to the side edges of the mat. So coming into this pose, I like to call it lazy happy baby. And you can stay here if this feels so nice. Where you can work yourself into a full happy baby, arms reach down the inner sides of the legs, grabbing hold of the inner arches of the feet. If you cannot reach your inner arches of your feet, just hold on to your ankles. And we're going to gently work our way into full baby. So let's start by extending the right leg up a little bit. Then bringing it back down. We'll do the left side now, extend it up as far as it'll go. Bringing that back down. Right leg, bring it up. Bring it down. Left leg, bring it up. Bring it down. And this time, let's try both legs, both feet. Reach up towards the ceiling. Coming into full happy baby. So in this posture here, a couple points to keep in mind. You want to try and keep the sacrum, the bone at the base of your spine. You want to keep it resting on the mat as much as you can. You also want to keep your shoulder blades pulling towards the mat. So not letting this motion pull your shoulder blades up and forward. Creating expansion through the hips while we also create expansion through the front body. And so we'll stay here for a couple of breaths. Again, if you feel called to rock side to side, maybe massaging through the back body. And if some sighs come out, let them escape. And we'll stay here for 2 more deep breaths to make them really, really full. And then you can gently draw the feet back down, letting go of the feet, closing the knees, maybe squeezing them into your chest one more time. And then letting the feet go. Your feet can come to the mat, your knees pointing up towards the ceiling. We're going to set ourselves up for a twist. So your arms can come to a T shape, or if you want to bring them into a cactus shape, opening up to the chest a little more. Let's press into the feet enough that we can lift the hips just a little bit off the mat. We're going to roll over onto the right hip and let the knees fall over to the right side. So you may want to have a block under your knees here. Maybe the block is under both knees. Maybe you put the block between the knees to create a little bit of space in the pelvis. You may need to scoot your hips over a little bit to allow the knees to come down. And a couple of options for your arms here. You can keep them in your cactus. You can bring your right hand to the top of your knees to help them stay in place. And finally, if it feels okay for your neck, you can allow it to roll over to the left side. We're going to stay here for 5 really deep breaths, really slow, sweet, smooth breaths. And when your 5th exhale is complete, if your head is off to the side, gently bring it back to center. Then we'll gently draw the knees back to center, maybe squaring the hips on the mat again. Then we'll set up for the second side. So whatever you did with your arms, maybe do the same thing on this side. Press into the feet to lift the hips off the mat just enough that you can roll over onto the left hip and let the knees fall over to the left side. Again, if you need the blocks under your knees or between your knees here, please feel free to do so. You can rest the left hand on the knees if that feels okay. And you can bring the gaze to twist over the right shoulder, again, if that feels okay for your neck. Finding a position that feels really nice, really comfortable, and allows you to take some nice full breaths. And we will take 5 more deep, smooth, sweet breaths here. When your 5th exhale is complete, bringing the head back to center first, then gently drawing the knees up towards center, squaring yourself on the mat, and then let's bring the feet closer to mat width apart. And we can gently sway the knees side to side, bringing a little bit of neutralization into the hips, the pelvis, the low back here. And when you feel ready, slowly making your way into your Shavasana, your final resting pose. If you want, you can extend the legs long on the mat. Or if you feel like you want some more hip opening, you can bring the soles of the feet together, knees come apart, coming into this Supta Baddha Konasana. And your hands can be out to the sides on the floor, palms facing up. You can bring your hands to rest on your belly or on your thighs. Whatever is working to bring yourself into that state of relaxation. Taking some time here to let your body settle into your resting pose. After spending most of the practice doing the work, bringing that movement into the body, waking up the muscles, the tissues. Now we can take these final minutes of our practice to come into that state of rest. So now you can let your breath come back to whatever state feels natural for you. Letting go of any last bit of tension in the body. Maybe your thoughts drift in and out of your mind. And again, not judging them, not paying too much attention, just letting them flow in and out. And so taking some time now to let yourself come into that full state of relaxation, knowing that I will bring you back when the time is right. So giving yourself permission to simply drift off into that state of absolute bliss. And slowly starting to bring your awareness back into the room. Feeling your body as it rests on the mat. Feeling your breath as it moves the body ever so gently. Bringing some physical movement back into the body, wiggling the fingers and the toes. Maybe making some soft circles with the hands and the feet. Maybe bringing the arms overhead, coming into a nice full body stretch. And then placing the soles of your feet on the mat, knees pointing towards the ceiling. And gently roll over onto the right side of the body. And moving slowly, bringing yourself up into a comfortable seated position. Maybe keeping the eyes low or closed. Hands can rest on the knees or together at heart center if that feels right for you. Let's take a moment here to think about one thing that we are grateful for today. Let that gratitude fill your heart space, fill you with a sense of pure joy, thankfulness, happiness. Thank you so much for sharing your practice and your energy with me today. If you have any questions for me about the practice at all, please feel free to reach out to me. You can email me or send me a message on Instagram, and I would be happy to answer any of your questions. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and I hope you continue to practice. Thank you, thank you, thank you.